officially the country's hottest spot. Throughout the day, forecasters and sunbathers watched their thermometers creep ever upwards towards the record. And then about 2:45 this afternoon, it happened. 100 degrees recorded at Heathrow Airport. But it didn't stop there, as Philip Ray-Smith reports.
For Met Office forecasters, it was something to tell their grandchildren. Late this evening, it was confirmed Gravesend had recorded Britain's warmest ever temperature. As the heat built around the southeast, the Kent town notched up 38.1 degrees Celsius, more than 100 degrees Fahrenheit. But this was a day when new highs were being recorded all over the country. They were the first to break the record at Heathrow's weather station, measuring 99, then 100 degrees Fahrenheit. At Heathrow this evening, the temperature's still in the mid-30s, but history was made here at exactly 2:43 this afternoon. The records were broken in the most spectacular way. Today's weather will be remembered for a long time to come. And not just for the sunshine. Thunderstorms caused flash floods in towns throughout the northeast. More than a month's rainfall came down in a matter of hours. Humber Coast Guard was called out after a fishing boat was smashed to pieces during a storm in Tees Bay, leaving one man dead. And a Birmingham woman is recovering in hospital after being struck by lightning. 14 others at a football match in Great Barr were treated for injuries.
The noise was deafening. Didn't know nothing about it until I was getting back up off the floor. Everybody was just knocked over like a deck of cards.
For most of the country, it was the weekend when normal British weather was away on holiday. The sunshine will continue. But today's new record is likely to stand for some time.
We'll see high pressure building in from the west and sunnier, drier conditions, much fresher, much more refreshing conditions for all the country with plenty of sunshine and temperatures still in the mid-20s, which is not really to be sniffed at.
So today will go into the history books. If and when we see these scenes again will depend on whether it's down to global warming or just fluke. Philip Ray-Smith, ITV News.
It's the inquiry which has so many questions to answer. Tomorrow, Lord Hutton will hear the first evidence about the circumstances surrounding the death of the scientist Dr. David Kelly. It marks the beginning of a forensic examination of all the claims and counterclaims which have characterised this bitter row. And there's no mistaking just how high the stakes are for everyone involved. Here's Libby Vina.
An inquiry, not a trial, was how Lord Hutton described his investigation. Legally so, perhaps, but Courtroom 73 will be thick with lawyers tomorrow, and many reputations, political and professional, are on the line. What lay behind the death of the respected weapons scientist Dr. David Kelly? When Lord Hutton hears his first witnesses, some of the truth about this Westminster tragedy may at last be revealed. The BBC's journalism will be under scrutiny. The Prime Minister will be summoned, as will Alistair Campbell, his communications chief, and Jeff Hoon, the Defence Secretary. From the BBC, Chairman Gavin Davis may give evidence. Reporter Andrew Gilligan will certainly appear. It was his report which indirectly drew Dr. Kelly into the public gaze. But what was Jeff Hoon and the MOD's role in revealing his name to the press? And how damaging was the hectoring Dr. Kelly suffered at the hands of MPs? One crucial piece of evidence may be the tape that another BBC reporter, Susan Watts, made of a meeting she had with Dr. Kelly. What hasn't helped cool the atmosphere is Downing Street spokesman Tom Kelly's description of the weapons scientist as a Walter Mitty character. Today, the Tories insisted the Prime Minister should apologise.
This culture of duplicity and deceit goes right to the top. We've had it for years. Tony Blair has known about it for years. And what people are increasingly coming to realise is that we have a Prime Minister who is a stranger to the truth and a government that's rotten to the core.
But was it really a war of words at Westminster which led a civil servant to his death in this Oxfordshire field, or something else? For Tony Blair, the stakes could not be higher. If Lord Hutton finds that his actions, or those of his ministers or advisers, in any way contributed to Dr. David Kelly's death, the political consequences would be disastrous. Libby Vina, ITV News at the High Court.
The threat of a terrorist attack against Britain is so serious, police in London have been told to shoot to kill if they're confronted by what they think is a suicide bomber. The order comes amid reports that America's FBI has new intelligence about a possible attack. Helen Wright reports.
Scotland Yard has now put its officers on the highest possible state of alert amid fears of an imminent al-Qaeda terror attack in Britain. It's believed the security forces are warning of suicide bombers, and the Yard has taken unprecedented steps to prepare. The force sent specialist officers here to Israel, a country well used to suicide attacks, for training in how to spot potential bombers and how to respond. They will now prepare other forces nationwide.
Since September 11th, it's become clear to most observers that Britain is a likely target at some point for suicide attack. And therefore, there's an urgent need that's existed really since that date for clarification to be given to officers so they can have the confidence to carry out their duties.
Fears of fresh terror attacks were heightened when police found traces of the poison ricin at a flat in North London in January, and warnings of a plot against Heathrow saw troops and tanks drafted in to protect the airport. Police have also moved to protect high-profile potential targets like the Houses of Parliament with concrete blocks to deter car bombers. Anti-terror measures have also seen armed officers deployed in the City of London and at ports and airports nationwide. They've now been told they may face a devastating new threat from suicide attacks. It's also believed armed officers have been advised that if they fear lives are at risk, they will be justified in shooting to kill. Helen Wright, ITV News at Scotland Yard.
Head teachers and student groups have welcomed proposals to make pupils wait until after they get their A-levels before applying for university. The plan, announced just days before this year's results are due out, is aimed at encouraging less confident and less privileged students to apply to the top colleges. Police may have made a breakthrough in the case of two boys who went missing in Birmingham 7 years ago. A man's being questioned about the disappearance of David Spencer and Patrick Warren. He's now been released on bail. And the Ministry of Defence says it's still awaiting the police report into the deaths of 4 soldiers at the Deep Cut Barracks in Surrey. Tonight, it's again played down reports that some of the soldiers may have been murdered. British soldiers escorting 2 oil tankers have come under grenade attack in the southern Iraqi city of Basra. No one was injured. It follows the second day of rioting in the city over fuel shortages. Martin Geisler reports.
For the second day running, mobs have been out on the streets of Basra. Today, 4 groups of 200 to 300 men burned tyres and hurled rocks at cars on main roads in the north of the city. British troops say they are fully equipped and ready to deal with the disturbances, but today they struggled. Soldiers fired shots in the air to disperse one group. 3 Iraqis were injured in separate incidents, but the shots which hit them may have been fired from within the mobs. These riots are born of frustration rather than politics. The people here angry that 4 months after the war, they are still experiencing frequent power cuts and fuel shortages, depriving them of refrigeration and air conditioning in the height of summer, with temperatures exceeding 50 Celsius every day. Now tempers are rising in line with that heat. The British military say they can understand the frustrations of people here, but they're appealing for patience and calm. Martin Geisler, ITV News, Baghdad.
Football and